Hello and welcome to Spokane Buddhist Temple's virtual service. My name is Amanda Goodwin and I will be your MC. Your doshi for today's service is Minister's Assistant Chad Donahoe. Before we begin, please know that we will be muting your microphones. It is recommended that you turn your camera off and switch your viewing mode to speaker view. To do this, just go to the upper right-hand corner of your screen and you should see view where you can choose speaker view. If you do not want your picture or name shown, please take this into account and update it accordingly. After service today, we will have an opportunity to have a Dharma discussion on the Dharma talk that we hear and get to socialize a bit, so please join us afterwards. Today, we would normally observe Hoanko, which is Shinran Shonin's memorial. However, we have asked that Reverend Kusunoki deliver a Dharma talk for us for Hoanko, and he will be joining us for that on Sunday the 31st. We look forward to that. Our opening chant today will be the Sambu Jo, which can be found on page 24 in the service book. If you do not have your own service book, I'll be sharing the pages here as part of our share screen function.
Mujo Midan Yorai Niudo Jo San Ge Mujo Shakan Yorai Niudo Jo San Ge Ku Mujo Jipon Yorai Niudo Jo San Ge Ku Namo Mina Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namana, namana.
We will now read the golden chain number 2 on page 15. I am a link in the Buddha's golden chain of love that stretches around the world. I must keep my link bright and strong. I will try to be kind and gentle to every living thing and protect all who are weaker than myself. I will try to think pure and beautiful thoughts, to say pure and beautiful words, and to do pure and beautiful deeds, knowing that on what I do now depends not only my happiness or unhappiness, but also that of others. May every link in the Buddha's golden chain of love become bright and strong, and may we all attain perfect peace. Now let's turn to page 12 for the reading of the Jodo Shinshu Creed number 1. Together, please. Entrusting the vow of the Buddha and reciting the sacred name, I shall proceed through the journey of life with strength and joy. Revering the light of the Buddha, reflecting upon my imperfect self, I shall strive to live a life of gratitude. Following the teachings of the Buddha, discerning the right path, I shall spread the true Dharma. Rejoicing in the compassion of the Buddha, respecting and aiding one another, I shall do my best to work towards the welfare of society. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo. The sutra chant this morning will be the Jusege on page 93.
Yagon Shosegan. Hishi Mujodo. Shigan Fumanzo. Seifujo Shoga. Gao Muroko. Fui Dai Seishu. Fu Sai Shobin Gu. Sei Fujo Shoga. Gashi Jobutsudo. Myosho Choji Po. Kukyo Misho Mo. Seifujo Shoga. Ryokujin Shonen. Joe Shubon-gyo. Shigu Mujodo. Isho Tennin Shi. Jinriki Endaiko. Fusho Musaido. Shoujo Sankumyo. Kosai Shuyaku Kai Hichi Eigen. Meshi Konmo An. Hei Sokusho Akudo. Tsudatsu Zen Shumo. Kosojo Manzo. Ioroji Po. Ichigatsu Shujuki Tenko Onfu Gen Ishukai Hozo Kosei Kudoku Ho Jo Dai Shuchu Seppo Shishiku Kuyo Isai Boots Gusoku Shu Toku Hon Gane Shitsujo Man Toku Isan Gai O Nyobutsu Mugechi Tsudatsumi Fusho Gangaku Eri Toshi Saisho Son Shigan Yakoka Daisen Okando Kokusho Tenni Touchin Myo Ken Namandabu 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 Gannishiku Yodo sei sai dohotsu bodai ishi ojo an rako Namo Minabutsu. Namo Minabutsu. Namo Minabutsu. Namanda.
Today's Dharma talk will be given by Reverend Melissa Opal.
All right, please join me in Gasho. Namo Mirabutsu. Namo Mirabutsu. Namo Mirabutsu. Namo. So I'd like to read to you the 6th letter from Shinran Shonin's Matosho. These are letters he wrote or responded to followers who were seeking clarification from him on the teachings while he was in Kyoto. It is good to remember that these letters came at a time where they were quite precious to send and receive. The sender of the letter was really reliant on maybe someone waiting for somebody to make a trek from one place to another. So in this case, from Kanto to Kyoto, which was a pretty treacherous delivery to begin with. And, you know, that person might encounter problems along the way where the sender might not be sure if the letter would ever make it, if it would get lost or damaged or stolen. So if you could imagine sending a letter and not knowing whether you would ever receive a response or not, and then when you receive that, kind of that feeling that you would have. So these letters were quite precious, and I think it's part of one of the reasons why we still have them. They were, saved, and they were shown to other followers of the Nembutsu path. So with that in mind, here are the words from Shinran Shonin from letter number 6. It is saddening that so many people, both young and old, men and women, have died this year and last. But the Tathagata taught the truth of life's transience for us fully. So you must not be distressed by it. I, for my own part, attach no significance to the condition, good or bad, of a person in their final moments. People in whom Shinjin is determined do not doubt, and so abide among the truly settled. For this reason, their end also, even for those ignorant and foolish, is a happy one. You've been explaining to people that one attains birth through the Tathagata's working. It is in no way otherwise. What I have been saying to all of you for many, many years past has not changed. Simply achieve your birth, firmly avoiding all scholarly debate. I recall hearing the late Master Honen say, the person of the Jodo tradition attains birth in the Buddha land by becoming his foolish self. Moreover, I remember his smile, and he would say as he watched humble people of no intellectual pretensions coming to visit him, without a doubt, their birth is settled. And I heard him say after a visit by a man brilliant in letters and debating, I really wonder about his birth. To this day, these things come to mind. Each of you should attain birth without being misled by people and without faltering in Shinjin. However, the practicer in whom Shinjin has not become settled will continue to drift even without being misled by anyone, for he does not abide among the truly settled. Please relay what I have written here to the others. Respectfully, Zenshin, or for us, as we know him, Shinran. So this letter was written in 1260, and what strikes me about it, and partly why I chose it for today, is this letter feels so relevant to us right now. At the time of this writing, there was great famine and pestilence occurring in Japan. And at the time, Shinran was 88, so he was nearing the end of his life. He passed away at the age of 90. And this letter expresses his thoughts on death and dying and has a compassionate feel to it. The commentator in the book that these letters come from the notes that it has, he says it has a fatherly feel to it, as if comforting and talking to his children. The commentator also says the letter, moving in its simplicity, states that in facing death, no scholarly knowledge is needed, and no moral virtues are required. Only Shinjin is necessary. So it would be easy to spend our entire time talking about Shinjin, but that's not where I want to focus on per se. But we should address it, as it is at the heart of what Shinran wants for us, to achieve Shinjin and settle our birth, to end our drifting and being bounced about by life. So I'm going to read you a technical explanation of Shinjin and then try to unpack it into a shorter understanding. So according to the translators, Shinjin is the realization of other power in which human calculation is negated through the working of Amida Buddha. It denotes the central religious experience of Shin Buddhism, and literally means our true, real, and sincere heart and mind, which is given by Amida Buddha. This heart-mind has basically two aspects: a non-dichotomous mind of Amida and the heart and mind of man are one. And a dichotomous relationship as well, wherein the two are mutually exclusive and in dynamic interaction. Used as an adjective, Shin, not the same Shin as Buddhism, as Shin Buddhism, it has the meaning of true, real, and sincere. As a verb, it means to entrust oneself to the Buddha, an act which is made possible by the working of Amida Buddha. These two meanings are always inseparable. Thus, while Shinjin is an experience on the part of the person, Its source, its content, and its consummation are to be found not in man, but in Buddha. So a more simple way to put that, to kind of think about it, is to put the one thought moment where you recognize your place within the working of Amida's vow with a true, real, and sincere heart in mind. These moments can often be fleeting and we don't stay there forever. I think that's why sometimes Shinjin can be a little bit of a struggle or not knowing if it's been achieved. But in terms of that fleeting feeling, and maybe this is more relevant to women, I don't know how men feel about losing weight, but I kind of think of that moment, that fleeting feeling of like when you've lost weight and maybe you think like you've plateaued or you're not doing well. Maybe you don't think that you've done a very good job at losing weight, but you decide to like try on that pair of pants that have been a little bit too tight on you, and all of a sudden they're loose. And you have that moment of recognition right away of like, it's kind of this exciting feeling. You see the results. And that might be a way to think about that fleeting moment of Shinjin, where you kind of recognize what has been given to you and your part in that, your part of entrusting in that. But just like those pants that you were excited about, it goes away. It's, for a moment you feel that genuine total moment of surprise and excitement, but then you move on and the pants are just pants again. And now there's something that you wear every week or so. But that moment of excitement isn't there anymore. What was appealing to me in this letter and why I wanted to discuss it today is what it means to be truly settled in something. Not just the settlement from Shinjin, because that settlement assures us of our birth, but to be settled in the world I'm living in right now, in a world filled with not just frightening things to us like COVID and unrest in our government and country, but also the changing information and understandings about the world around us, just like Shinran experienced in 1260. And what does it mean to have something steadfast and unchanging? Something that we can consistently come back to over and over again and know, without a doubt, that it is there and will be there for us. And I've been thinking about this for a while now. About a month ago, my best friend and I were discussing our shared experiences in college that revolved around religion. And I think those that listen to the podcast I did, you have a little extra insight into that. And I asked her, where she is at now, what keeps her tethered to her faith when so many of us that were involved in the same organization have left that faith system, and she herself continues to kind of be at odds with her own faith and how she understands it versus how it's being taught to her now, and the questions that kind of raises. And so we ended that conversation without any answers. It was kind of one of those questions where, you get to think on it and consider, and maybe there'll be an answer at some point in time, but maybe not. Maybe it's just kind of that self-reflective sort of question. So when we talked again this week and the conversation resurfaced, she turned the question in my direction. And having had the benefit of contemplating the question for several weeks, I was reminded of a passage from the Tani Sho where Shinran addresses his followers who have traveled at great peril to themselves, much like the peril of the letter, to ask him clarifying questions on the teachings. And he says, I have no idea whether the Nembutsu is truly the seed for my being born in the Pure Land, or whether it is the karmic act for which I must fall into hell. So should I have been deceived by my master Honen and saying the Nembutsu were to fall into hell, even then I would have no regrets. So I think this statement is a marker of true settlement. I do believe it took Shinran a long time to get to this point. He had been a monk since the age of 9 and had left Mount Hiei 20 years later. He was filled with doubts around his own capabilities. He'd always been a Buddhist, but his outlook on the teachings and how they affected him and his life changed significantly when he met Honen. I feel a commonality to Shinran in this way, and I think many of you can as well. For the first time in my life, I'm able to look at my religious path and feel completely settled. And at the end of my life, as I take my last breath, hopefully this is true, it's how I feel now, I will not regret my time relying on Amida Buddha for the wisdom and compassion in which I lived. It's also important to separate the truth of the teachings from the things I encounter in this life, because there will be times that I'm unhappy with people, places, and things. If I mislabel these hurts or fears with my religious path, I might find myself wanting to leave to escape these problems, only to find them again where I plant myself next. Of course, having just written a paper on cults and new religious movements, I do feel compelled to say you should never force yourself to stay somewhere where you feel bullied, abused, or brainwashed. I would really hope that that is nothing you've ever felt at the Spokane Buddhist temple. But when these moments of fear or hurt arise that cause me to want to leave, I need to ask myself, is this an issue with the teachings or with someone? Is this an issue with what I believe, or am I confused? Or maybe I just don't like how it makes me think or feel about myself and how I view the world around me. Or maybe I need to ask, what is my role in how I am perceiving something? Too often we blame the teachings and move on. But when we are settled in our path, nothing can deter us from it or keep us away. This true settlement was also reflective in the first Japanese immigrants who came to the US in the late 1800s and wrote home begging for ministers to come and teach. They were steadfast on their path. Buddhism and Jodo Shinshu in particularly, they're not here to accept you as you are and then try to change you into someone else. Buddhism accepts you for who you are and then gives you tools to see yourself more clearly. And then it's up to you if you want to make changes or not. But you're still accepted whether you do or not. Shinran lived his life during much turmoil. There were numerous natural disasters, government issues, death due to famine and disease, and life expectancy was quite short during this time. I believe it is why he reminds us over and over again to be settled, to be tethered to truth, because there will always be earthquakes in our lives. Whether they are small or large, they will continue to come. But we have the Nembutsu to guide us always and illumine our path. Please join me in Gasho. As for me, I simply accept and entrust myself to what my revered teacher told me. Just say the Nembutsu and be saved by Amida. Nothing else is involved. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namandatsu. Namandatsu. Thank you.
Thank you, Reverend, for a wonderful Dharma talk. We will now read the Threefold Refuge on page 10, led by Minister's Assistant Chad Donahoe.
Difficult is it to receive a human form. Now we are living it. Difficult is it to hear the Dharma of the Buddha. Now we hear it. If we do not cross over to the truth in the present life, in what life shall we cross over? Let us with sincerity and true reverence take refuge in the three treasures of the truth. I take refuge in the Buddha. May we, together with all sentient beings, awaken to the great way of enlightenment and to the unsurpassed intent of Amida Buddha. I take refuge in the Dharma. May we, together with all sentient beings, enter the storehouse of the Dharma, becoming like the wisdom ocean. I take refuge in the Sangha. May we, together with all sentient beings, become units in true accord, in harmony with all things. The peerless, profound, and wondrous Dharma is rare to encounter, even in many hundreds and thousands of kalpas. Now we are privileged to hear and receive it. Let us thoroughly understand the true meaning of the Tathagata's teaching. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namana.
We thank you for attending today's virtual service. As an all-volunteer Sangha, we truly appreciate all donations and efforts. Without your continued support, we could not do such things as assist with continuing education or provide a place for all to come and listen to the Dharma. Although we cannot meet in person, many volunteers continue to maintain our temple and keep it functioning so that when we can all be together again in person, the space will be ready. If you would like to donate, you can do so by sending a check to the temple at 927 South Perry Street or via the link on our website. And please feel free to email the temple if you have any questions. We will now have a few short announcements, and I'll make it so people can unmute themselves. If you have anything to add, just go ahead and put it in the chat and we'll get to you. Thank you.
So there's several little like seminars coming up. So do make sure to look at BuddhistChurchesOfAmerica.org. The Seattle Between is having Reverend Wandra speaking at a seminar, I think at the beginning of February. The sci-fi talk should be on the Center for Buddhist Education YouTube channel soon if you missed it this Saturday or last Saturday. So definitely check those sources. And then Mary's been really great about posting some of these upcoming seminars as well in the Facebook page. And so check the website. When I sent out the email for folks, I said I would address the phishing little scam that came through this last week. So for those that don't know, in my day job, I work in finance, and these sort of phishing techniques are used often to try to get a hold of people's account numbers and different things. So what I would really caution people about is save trusted email addresses in your address book, whether you're using Gmail or whatever source you're using. That way, if something comes from an email that is not in your trusted sources, it'll obviously then hopefully go to your junk mail, depending on how you have those set up. If it ever seems fishy in the slightest, check the properties on the email. Somebody might be mirroring an email address, but when you check the properties, then that will also show you maybe where it's coming from. A particular scam is to maybe take and copy an email address almost exactly, but they'll put like a period somewhere in there that it's not actually there to try to get you to click on it. And again, I said this in the email, but I'll reiterate, like, we will never email you asking you specifically for money or gift cards. I think that everyone's been around long enough that you see when something comes to us from a fundraiser that we tell you it's a fundraiser and, usually send you to the website, or like Amanda did today, told you about the website and then said, send a check to the temple, here's the address. So if it's anything that's ever goofy or weird beyond that, just know it's a scam. And then kind of an extra piece is if somebody's calling and impersonating one of us, not that we've had this happen, or they're saying that they're from the IRS or any of those sorts of things, you should always be able to call somebody back. If they don't want to let you call them back, then that's a really good indicator that it's a scam. If it's too good to be true, it's a scam. It's kind of one of those things, like, you just want to be diligent in it. And if you ever have any questions, you're more than welcome to reach out to me as a resource. I'm happy to help. My wife has fallen for some of the phone ones, and so we've had lots of conversations around that. When in doubt, if you don't recognize the number, let it go to voicemail, and you can hear just the craziness that kind of comes up for it. One of the popular ones right now is that there's a warrant out for your arrest. So just, be mindful of those sorts of things, and definitely research things, do a reverse phone number lookup, all of those things. And thank you to the people who reached out to let us know they had gotten this weird email from me. Like I was joking before, I don't think I've ever told anybody namaste. It's just not part of Jodo Shinshu tradition. We say gasho. So I don't think you'll ever hear me say namaste in an email or in service or anything. So, look out for those weird sort of things. And so the email wasn't hacked. It was a phishing scheme. And so there is a big difference between the two. So all that information for you. I'm sure most of you know it, but just an extra little refresher on these things.
Thank you. And then in place of Oshoko, we will have a few moments of quiet sitting to think on the Buddha.
Can I just say one thing?
Yeah, go for it.
Next week, we're having the all Sangha meeting where it's going to be part of the service, and we're kind of going to give you the state of the temple as it is right now. So that's going to happen next week. So be excited.
Woohoo! Thanks, Chad. In place of Oshoko, we will now have a few moments of quiet sitting to think on the Buddha and to express our gratitude for the teachings. And then if you want to stay for socializing or to speak or to talk about the Dharma discussion, please do so. Thank you.
That now concludes our Sunday service. Again, as Amanda said, please stick around for discussion. I'm going to end the Facebook Live. So thank you to everybody who joined us on Facebook. Be kind to yourself and be kind to others.